Justin from AC Hamilton in sunny Preston. I'm here. On my right I have the Yamaha PSR-SX920 and on my left I have a used Genos 1. So the point of this video is just to let people know, because I'm not sure they realise just how humongous a gap there is between this one and this one. Is humongous a word? Who knows? Anyway, it's a big gap. So the SX920, zero complaints, everybody loves it, it's a great keyboard, absolutely not saying don't buy it, great keyboard. But where we are in January 2026 is the price of this is a very technical graph I'm going to show you here now. The price of the SX920 is here, and the price of the Genos 1 second hand is here. But the Genos 1 is this much better than, again, extremely technical information, than the 920. And even if I just give you this one actual stat, and if we look at super articulation 2 voices, which are the best voices on Yamaha. So if we go to the Genos 2, which is the, as we all know, is the flagship, the top of the range, you can't get any better. When we play a Genos 2, the absolute best voices, as a rule, almost all the time, is the super articulation 2 voices. That's the SA2 voices. You can look them up on the specs, of course. And just on this one stat, and there's many, many more stats, there's 6 times the SA2 voices on here than there is on here. So that just gives you an indication of just how much stronger a Genos 1 is than SX920. So if you just want to take my word for that, then basically that's it. You go no further on this video. But if you want to see all the little nooks and crannies and nuances as to, there's loads of reasons that this one wins over this one. Of course, we do have a thing with the size. There's a physical size difference, and if your reason to buy the 920 is you don't want to pay any more than this, not 1 penny more than that, and it absolutely cannot be bigger than this, then I totally agree with you. Carry on and get the 920. But if you're not stuck to that price and you're not stuck to that space, then in my humble opinion, you should buy that. We have got the speakers issue. One last thing I want to tell you about before I get to the video is the speaker system. Now, when you watch all these videos on YouTube, as lots of you tell me that you do, what you never hear is the sound of the actual keyboard on its speakers, because whenever there's a video made, the signal goes from the back of the keyboard, whether it be a 920, whether it be a Genos. The speakers, they're either the onboard speakers, or in the case of the Genos speaker system is completely bypassed on the video, so you don't hear that. So it's only when people come into the store and you're actually hearing it, and that's why when people come into the store, the difference is often a lot bigger than they expect, because they've just watched the videos. And obviously, if you're living with lots of customers who live in Cornwall, top of Scotland, and it's impossible for we'd love you to come to the shop, but it's impossible for you to come. So the videos have a great purpose for that, but it's just to let you know there is that little bit of a weakness with the videos, is you never hear it as you would do in real life. You know, it is a true signal, you're hearing the true sound of the 920 Genos, but it's bypassing the onboard speakers, so that element you're not really hearing the difference. So anyway, so I'm waffling on, so just carry on with the video, and I'll see you later. So obviously the most important thing is the quality of the sounds, the quality of the backing styles, which I'll come to, and they are considerably higher on Genos 1 version 2 with the upgrade compared to SX920. But let's just have a look at all the other things that we tend to overlook, the differences between Genos 1 and SX920. So start at the most obvious things, of course, the number of keys. And having that extra octave does make a difference, because it means you can have more room in your split. Even if you're the most basic player, it still makes a difference to have more keys, because if you're playing a trumpet in your right hand or whatever it is, the fact you can move lower without having to press a button and change the octave, or the fact you can move your left hand up higher, so it does matter having those extra keys. So the next obvious thing is the aftertouch. So the Genos, being the top of the range instrument, has aftertouch, and that means there's just more natural expression. There's, rather than just how hard you hit it in the first place, you've got that extra sort of human expression where you give it a bit of an extra press and you get more nuance, whereas that wouldn't make any difference if you did that on the 920. Once you've hit that key down, nothing else will change. If you hit it then, once you're holding it down, then you press further, it's going to make zero difference, whereas on Genos it makes a difference. So then the next most obvious thing is the size of the screen. Obviously the physical size of the screen, as you can see, is quite markedly different. There is also an angle as well on the Genos screen. But everything then, because so much revolves around the screen, everything then naturally becomes easier. Just the obvious things, you know, where it says piano, strings, guitar versus the same thing on 920, it's just a lot bigger and easier to see. But also when you go into turning them on and off, you know, on the 920 it's quite a small area to get your finger precisely in that area to turn it on and off, so it's quite easy to make a mistake. And obviously this area is much bigger in which to have that press of your finger. Then also the physical buttons that they relate to, on a 920 here we've got the physical buttons here, and if you just look at the size of those buttons compared to the size of these buttons, you know, everything's, if it's bigger and there's more actual physical thing to press, it's just easier. It's easier to press that than it is to, I mean, it's not the end of the, it's not a massive thing, but it's definitely, it's the benefit, it's easier. So everything is bigger and easier to press. But more importantly really is then when you go into the screen, and let's say you're searching for a song and the typewriter comes up. So then it's very easy on a Genos to type in whatever you want to type in. Obviously if we did that on a 920, you know, it's each letter, and again it's still fine, but it's, the fact is that's those areas of the screen where you've got the individual characters are significantly smaller than the area you've got to press in the screen on a Genos. So again, everything becomes bigger, easier to see, easier to press. Because if you had music on the screen as well, that would be a massive difference. So then you move on to the knobs and the sliders. Now the knobs and the sliders again make life easy. So for most people who, shall we say, just play for their own pleasure, just this one slider here, it's so much easier having that slider. So we've all had it where you're playing a tune and the backing's too loud compared to how hard you hit in the right hand. You can't hear the right hand. Say you've got a piano in your right hand and you've got all the drums going in the backing and it's drowning out the melody. So of course on a Genos, you know all you've got to do is just grab that first slide. It's always going to do that job. Whereas on a 920, you know, you've got to go into the mixer screen and then highlight it and then bring it down. You can assign it to one of these knobs, but that is nowhere near as good as having a slider that is like dedicated to do that job, because the trouble with assigning it to a knob is that then the knob could be doing something completely different on a different registration, whereas you always know that as you grab that first slider, that's always going to get that balance right between your melody and your backing style. So having those sliders makes a huge difference. But so that's the most basic one, but then all of the other sliders make a difference. So what if you've got, you know, you've got your on the screen at the moment, we've got piano, strings and guitar, and instantly, you know, you have, because you've got this independent screen, you can leave that screen as it is. So we've got now right 1, right 2, right 3, piano, strings and guitar. So instantly you've got that physical adjustment. Whereas on the 920, to do the same thing, you've got to go into the mixer screen, make sure it's on the right page, and then right 1, change it, right 2, change it, right 3, change it. Whereas here it's just grab those three sliders. So you don't have to press mixer first, you know, and then highlight it and then move it up and down. You just grab those 3 sliders, instantly doing it. And so there's lots of other things that are useful, like I did the style mute video, which is my particularly favourite thing on these knobs, which is, I think, transforms the style of whatever you like, whether you like ballads or Latin or whatever. Just having those knobs that you can just grab. Again, you can do a similar thing on here, but it's just a lot more fiddly because you haven't got a dedicated knob or slider. So the second screen only makes life easier. Having the knobs only makes life easier. Having all the physical sliders only makes life easier. So everything, you know, becomes easier on it. All these little things do add up, and that's before we talk about the quality of sound, which is significantly different, because just in the case of the super articulation 2 voices, you know, there's many times, these are like the premium voices, the best voices on 920. There's 3 or 4 times the number I'll go into that, but there's 3 or 4, I think it might be 75, off the top of my head, 75 super articulation 2 sounds on Genos 1 versus like 12 on the 920. So there's a massive difference in those premium voices. It applies across every sound category, it applies across all of the styles, it applies to drum kits, because the better quality drum kits in the Genos. So it applies to expansion packs. There's better expansion packs we can put into a Genos 1. We had this great upgrade of Genos 1 when they brought version 2 of Genos 1 out, and that gave us you know, more playlists, song titles, so and styles that didn't exist before, so which you can still not get on a 920. So there's so many things, and that's to not, you know, the 920 is absolutely zero complaints with the 920. It's extremely popular. A lot of people will say, you know, I'd love a Genos, but it's too big, which is fair enough. You can't get around that. You know, some people are saying if they open the door, it's going to hit the Genos. Fair enough, and I understand that you know, space is going to be a thing, and you might want the portability of it, where you can just take, because the speakers are built in, and you can just pick it up and go. In actual fact, the size, we're talking about the size as well and the weight, I don't think it's very much difference on the size. I mean, that's what kind of why I put these two together, so you can see the difference in the size of the two keyboards. Depth, not much difference there either. And in fact, the weight is actually not much difference. It's only, of course, the speakers that would add. But you know, you take the speakers off, and the weight is hardly any difference between the two. And of course that brings me on to the sound, and although the speakers on the 920, everybody is, you know, very impressed with how good they are for built-in speakers, it's still never as good as the separate speakers. And when you have a separate, you know, bass woofer on the floor, like we have with the Genos speaker system, and you know, there's still a much fuller, richer sound than you get that on that compared to a 920 going through built-in speakers. So there's zero complaints with the 920. Everybody loves it, everybody's happy with it, but the whole point of this video is just to make sure everybody's aware that, you know, it's not that much difference in price for a used Genos 1, and just, you probably don't realise just how many benefits there are of a Genos 1 over a 920. You've got to remember that the Genos, although it's been upgraded to Genos 2, still a top of the range instrument. You know, so as good as a 920 is, it's still, you know, nowhere near a Genos 1. If you need that extra few inches, you know, space saving, or you need that quick pick it up, put it under your arm, take it out and go and play in the club, or take it to the caravan, or take it round to your mates, then of course we understand why this size and having the speakers built in is so is so popular. And of course you've got this bank of very clear lit up in white light, your 6 buttons there: menu, home, style, voice. So the quick buttons to go to your playlist, go to your song, go to your menu, go home. Whereas again you don't have that quite so big and in your face, if you will. On the 920 you haven't got those buttons. Obviously you can get into it all, but it's just not as easy. Everything's easier, bigger, clearer. USB stick, having that access to it on the front, well, as opposed to on the back. So a minor point, but it's so many things, and there's probably a load of things that I've missed out. There's just so many things that are a benefit to the Genos one. So you've got the difference in the quality of the sound and the quality of the styles, but also you've got the difference in how you use it and how much easier it is with the bigger buttons, the bigger screen, the sliders, the knobs, and so on. So all in all, it's when you add it all up, it really is quite a difference. And currently the difference in, you know, at this moment in January 2026, SX920 is, I think, 1649. Genos one where we've updated and added all the extra expansions and the latest version, added our USB stick, is 1799. So it's 1649, 1799. Albeit then you do need, or most people would want, the Genos speaker system. But the Genos speaker system, which we sell brand new for 269. So, you know, it's not a huge amount difference cost wise, even when you add on the cost of the Genos speakers, which of course is a better sound system anyway. So just in summary, the 920, absolutely no issues with whatsoever, very popular, great keyboard, thoroughly recommend it. It's just that the reason for the video is that I get the feeling that a lot of you don't fully realise just how big the gap is between that and a Genos 1, and currently the price is relatively small difference between a 920 and a Genos 1, but I do appreciate why. I know I speak to lots of you who'll prefer the 920 because of the physical size and the speakers are built in, so I totally get that. And but anyway, so those are the hopefully give you a good understanding of the differences, and see you again on the next one.